Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It is time to have a look at a vehicle that is coming to the majority of the tech trees in War Thunder in Update Storm Warning. On the dev server, we are having a look at the M44. This is a new American SPH, which is coming in. It's labeled as a tank destroyer, of course, but let's be honest, it's an SPH. And this one was heavily exported across the world, meaning that most countries in the game actually used it, or at least their subnations used it. So you're not just getting it in the American tech tree, being a American vehicle. You can see it right here between the M10 and the M36. You are also getting it in the German tech tree, and you will find it coupled with the 88mm in a little group here. You're also getting it in the British tech tree, where you can find it between the Achilles and the Avenger. And then on top of that, you have it in the Japanese tech tree between the NATO and the M36. The Italian tech tree also has it in the left-hand line between the Chaffee and the Breda. And also France has the M44 too, between the M10 and the M36 once again. This is a Belgian M44 though, so part of the kind of Benelux subtree that has been slowly being added to the French. Obviously you have like all the fighters and the bombers and stuff in this line, and one over here for some reason, but you also have a helicopter in the form of the Dutch Apache coming in, and the Leopard 2s, so the M44 joins them in that area. Now, what is the difference between all of these vehicles? Absolutely nothing. They're all the same rank, they're all the same BR. The only difference between them is they all get different camos based on the nations that they're actually in. So they all have the same guns, same mobility, 50 cal, same amount of crew, everything. Now, according in the files, the Japanese one was called the M44A1, but in game it's just the M44. So there might be a different variant coming in for Japan, but at the moment, that's not the case. So basically, you have a one-stop shop for the M44. So what characteristics does this thing have? It has a 155mm M45 cannon, which you can find mounted centrally on this vehicle. But one of the interesting things about this is a lot of these types of SPHs usually have more of kind of a stable turret area. So if you have a look at something like the Panzer 2000, right, the Panzer Haubitz, the whole turret turns, but you can see how the gun is kind of like centrally mounted and can't really move side to side, so it's kind of stuck in the center. This is how a lot of SPHs are, whereas the M44, it actually has a little turret drive, which means that you can move this thing more than the average SPH. And this is what that turret drive kind of looks like. You have the horizontal down here, you have the vertical down here. So it isn't just something that is moved by the gun mount. It's actually moved on a circle that it can turn, giving it more of a horizontal arc of fire compared to a lot of other vehicles, which is really cool. And I think that's a big difference that this thing has. You can see here the horizontal guidance of this is plus or minus 30 instead of the lower amounts which a lot of these other SPHs have. The elevation, of course, is very good at 65, and also has pretty good gun depression too, which is pretty nice as well. Now, the problem with having a gun which can move this much, and also a gun which has pretty good targeting speed, is usually it suffers in other areas, and that's what this vehicle does. It only has 12mm of armor over it, which is an incredibly small amount. It can get machine gunned to death, and since all of your crew is in the back here, it basically means that they're all going to die very quickly. So you need to be the person to get the first shot off compared to everybody else. I will say that one of the cool little aspects of this vehicle that does make them unique is each one has different people in their uniform. So the M44 for America has the standard American crew, whereas if you have a look at the German one, you have the standard American crew too. But in something like the M44 for Italy, you actually have the boys in the coats from the Second World War. Now, the M44 is technically a post-World War II vehicle, but at least it gives a little bit of a pizzazz and difference in the vehicles themselves. So you can see here's the Italian guys, all 7 of them who are sat here. You can even see the guy over there with his with his arm around it. But also, if you have a look at like the American one, for example, you have different crew members. So it just gives something that's at least a little bit different compared to what you may be used to. And I think that's pretty nice. I think that's something that's actually positive. You can see here all of the crew members. Now, 12.7 millimeters, and also 4 of them, maybe 5 actually, aren't even being covered by that armor. So you can kill the majority of this crew by just staring at them and hitting them with a 7.62, which is pretty nuts. So talking about horizontal traverse, you can see the actual turret moving here inside of the chassis, and this gives it way more horizontal traverse, and it's also pretty quick for a vehicle like this. The targeting speed is very nice for this vehicle, and I honestly think it's actually one of its greatest aspects, because a lot of the SPHs you have to kind of like chill in an area, you have to wait, but with this thing and its mobility on the chassis that it's on, you're able to go forward and you're able to go backward at a good click. With the 50 cal, you're going to be able to reposition, fire, and then, you know, set up in a different place. It's going to be a bit of a menace in that way. So this SPH does a lot of things well that many other SPHs don't do well, which makes it dangerous. It has the good targeting speed, it has the good mobility. It still doesn't have any armor, and also the reload is very long for what this gun is, but I can honestly see this thing going up in BR because it has those little factors that make it a bit better. Other aspects of it is the vehicle has access to a 500 horsepower engine, which is nothing to sniff at. That's very good. It also has a good transmission to be able to go forward, and pretty good at 4.0 backwards as well. The driver is fully exposed though, so it's really easy to stop this vehicle in its tracks. You just have to kill the driver, who is sat here with a machine gun, and it's gonna be really struggling to do anything. So this vehicle, you're still gonna have to shoot first, but at least it gives you the opportunity in order to do that. You also have an updated damage model on this thing, so it obviously has the horizontal and the vertical modeled really coolly. It has the power system at the back, the ammo, which is sat over here, which is a 2-piece ammo, and then you also have some gunners and loaders at the back, which are designed to use the gun. So overall, that's pretty much the setup of it. In terms of ammunition, since this thing is a 155, they've given it access to the M107, which is the standard HE shell you'll find on a lot of these SPHs. They've also given it the M110 though, which is the smoke shell that kind of accompanies the M107. The M107 has a lot of explosive mass, 9.14 kilos, but it doesn't have the greatest muzzle velocity, only 563 meters per second. Now, I will say on this vehicle, the muzzle velocity is actually not too bad because the optics lines up pretty well with it, so you don't have to worry about it too much, but it is at least something to consider. Also, 61mm of pen on the HE. There'll be a lot of vehicles that you'll catch out with this gun. Just to kind of show you what I mean, so one of the vehicles you'll face a lot around this BR is probably like a T-34. They're generally pretty crazy around this BR, like there's a lot of them running around. And if you are facing it, facing the M107 shell, if we just go to the American tech tree, there we go. And if we just take out the M107, then what you can see is you can shoot it anywhere and it will die. Because no matter where you hit it, because remember how overpressure works. So wherever you hit it, even if the shell doesn't pen through, all it has to do is find one little area of it, and it will just annihilate behind and overpressure the crew. So a T-34, which is known for having pretty good survivability in very awkward areas, is not going to survive against this thing at all at its BR. Even with the additional armor, even with all of those things, it's not going to make a difference. And then like something like a KV-1, which obviously was kind of the powerhouse around this BR for the longest time, This one is one which can also fight the M44. So this kind of shows you what you can do against the KV-1, which is just shoot it in the turret and it will just die once again, because what it does is it goes through the bottom base plate and just nukes it. So you just have to shoot center mass and the KV-1 will just explode, which is why people get annoyed at these SPHs quite a lot of the time, because they don't have to aim. And this M44 won't have to aim, but nobody will have to aim against it either, and CAS will destroy it, and everything else will destroy it too. So it's not something that's, going to be fantastic at surviving, but it also can dish out quite a lot of damage. It does have good mobility, it doesn't get any of the extra factors, so no artillery, no scouting, no laser rangefinder, nothing like that. It is just a bog standard ICU, you die vehicle. And if you see me, then I die vehicle. So what's the most important on a vehicle like this? Positioning, and also getting lucky with CAS not seeing you in the place. Now, that's not always something that you can rely on, but it's something you're going to have to be forced to, because there's nothing you can do about it. Every so often, you will just die, and that's okay. That happens to everybody. And luckily, once you've spaded this one, you'll be able to play a bunch of other ones in other tech trees and have that exact same feeling over and over and over and over again. Now, one of the problems that this type of thing brings up is the fact that you have so many of these same vehicles. When does it get boring to kind of grind them out? And for me, I feel like after like the 6th vehicle, even though these vehicles are only 20,000 RP to kind of research, the modifications and everything, it does get to a point where it gets a little bit ridiculous. And I think with the M44, we're kind of at that point. I would like them to implement some kind of system which basically makes it easier to be able to research the same variants of vehicles over and over again. Like, even if it's just a little bit of a discount on modifications or something like that, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just something a little bit, just to give people a reason to play multiple tech trees, even if they have the same equipment. You can see here the artillery focus on this thing. Generally, you're going to be shooting more straight, though, in a vehicle like this. So, the M44 will be fun, and I hope people enjoy it. I hope people don't get too frustrated with it, with its gun, but generally, I honestly think it's one that's going to go up in BR, just because once people know where to shoot, things die very quickly. A vehicle like this can easily get conversations started by players about how bad overpressure is, in terms of the fact that it doesn't lose any penetration after the initial hit, and it just overpressures behind. And that might be a worthy conversation to have one of these days, especially after the addition of all of these types of SPHs. Maybe they can do something about it, who knows. As always though, hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.